Hello, everybody. I am Savanya DeBarros, the protector of athletes, also the lawyer, principal attorney of the S.L. DeBarros Law Firm, where I represent 6- and 7-figure business owners, athletes in business, and of course, our beloved student athletes around name, image, and likeness. So today is the second phase of NIL Q&A that I have been hosting. And the purpose of this Q&A is to help you understand the legality around name, image, and likeness. So last month we dealt with name and what that looks like. So if you want access to that particular presentation, make sure that you go ahead and shoot me a DM, or you can simply send me an email at sdebarros@sldebarros.com. So without further ado, let's get started. Can hear me, just let me know. Just say that you can hear me. Okie doke. So here we go. Welcome to this Q&A. I'm super excited if I have not said that enough. Guys, look, I love the law, and it's always my hope that I can give you different insight so that you can navigate the rules the right way for greater protection. So just so you guys know, this presentation is part of my intellectual property, so please do not copy, distribute, or present this information without my written consent. So some quick announcements. Some of you have already been following me, and if you have not, I launched one of my second books for athletes called Athletes Making Moves, and this was launched July 31st of this year, and it's an amazing book. So if you missed our book launch and you want access to all the amazing content that we have, make sure that you also send me a DM on that as well. Go to our Instagram and Facebook page at Athletes Making Moves. Make sure that you follow us so that you can get all the content on name, image, and likeness and the rules around it so that you understand this information in greater detail. We're restricting ourselves to not only being different, but we're trying to keep ourselves. All right, and so I have some amazing news, guys, and I know that you all have been waiting for this. I have heard from multiple people who have been reading this book, love the content, but definitely want to make sure that they have a way to dive deeper into it and know exactly how to implement it within their sport business. So I'm launching my book club. Athletes Making Moves book club is launching spring of 2022, and I want you to be a part of it. So if you've already purchased the book, you're going to automatically get notifications about when this is launched. If you want to get those notifications, make sure that you go ahead right now and purchase your book at Athletes Making Moves so that you can also be in the know. But also follow our social media pages, and you'll also see information for it there. All right, so what is image? What is image? Most states, now I'm going to give you the definition from the Illinois Name, Image, and Likeness statute, and not all of the state statutes particularly describe what image is, but I like the definition from Illinois. So here it is. Any visual depiction, including but not limited to photograph, digital image, rendering, and video. All right, so we quote this in the book Athletes Making Moves. So here are some examples of issues around image. Your image is intellectual property. So I want you to always keep that in the back of your mind. Or at the forefront, actually. Image is your intellectual property. So here are some examples. If you think about paintings of people, and I love art, right? So there could be a painting that is more of a realism painting, which means that they bring in artistic ways to make the depiction look exactly like the person, the person that is in the photograph. So there was an issue that happened, I want to say probably about a year ago, and a fellow attorney reached out to me saying, hey, I need some support on this. I represent a young lady who is a painter, and she saw this kid playing, and the painter went ahead and painted the little girl, and she ended up getting a deal from DeSable, I think that's how you pronounce it, DeSado, art gallery. So this young painter received a form of compensation for her art. The mom of this daughter, this is really crazy, but the mom of this daughter was visiting this gallery and saw the painting of her daughter and immediately reached out to sue. Okay, so that's an example of misappropriation of image. Now, if you have the Athletes Making Moves book, you will see something called the public right of use, a publicity right of use, or right of publicity. People use it interchangeably. You cannot take the image of someone, or if it was you and someone took your image, they wouldn't be allowed to take your image and do what they want with it, even if it is in a painting without prior written consent. And especially if they are receiving commercial compensation for it. Okay. Now, there's also issues around copyrighted images, and copyright is a form of making sure that your intellectual property is secured. So individuals can take my prior example around paintings. If you are an artist and you've created some works of art, you can go and copyright those works. Okay. But some of the main issues that are happening around copyrighted images, let's just say this, for example, with famous people or celebrities. Celebrities have been sued for using paparazzi photographs of them because they're technically copyrightable. The person who took the photo, which is the photographer, owns the copyright to that image unless they released it or licensed it to the celebrity. All right. And you want to be careful because the penalties can be extremely high. If you took someone's photograph, even if it is of you, all right, you might have some form of liability that you have to deal with. So that's why it's important to have counsel on your team. All right. Now, we kind of talked about the commercial use of your image a little bit. What does this look like? So I found some examples that I thought were super interesting. And I know you guys know Johnny Carson and this area. I can't remember. I think it was like a movie or a show or something where he says, "Here's Johnny." Someone tried to use that phrase without permission from him. Here's an example of an athlete, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. He was able to prevent some company of using commercial use of his former name, which is Lou Alcindor, in conjunction with the sale of automobiles. Now, I know you're probably thinking, well, that's his name, and Here's Johnny is representative of his name, but what does that have to do with image? Well, your image is attached to your name as well. And if someone is like, if I was to say, "Here's Johnny," you will automatically revert back to the image of the scene in that movie where you hear, "Here's Johnny." Okay. And if you're familiar with Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and the history of his name, you would probably also revert back to an image of him if you were to hear his prior name. So I want you to always remember that image is a part of intellectual property. And regardless of whether you are the individual in the photograph or audiovisual, you may or may not have a legal right to the image, and vice versa. And another individual may not have a right to your image, especially if you are the person who has created the image. You want to make sure that if anyone is using or portraying your name in a particular way or your image in a particular way, that you jump on that to ensure additional protections on your image. And we'll get to that. So I want to pull something out because I definitely want you to recognize that image is not always what you think it's supposed to be. So when we think of image, we see a photograph of somebody, or maybe we see a drawing of somebody, right? But image is not just a visual depiction of something. The rule states, and this is what I quoted to you earlier, not limited to, this is important, not limited to photograph, digital image, rendering, and video. So there's no limitation. If you're able to make the argument that a person did X, Y, and Z, that although it's not in a photograph, a digital image, rendering, and or video form, however, it creates an image around who I am and that has caused injury, you may have a way to sue for liability. So here are some ways that I want you to think about how your image shows up in terms of you even creating the image that you're reflecting out into the public. Your grammar is a reflection of your image. Good or bad, you have made an impression. And like all impressions, you are in total control. So that's a quote from Jeffrey Gitomer. Think about how you look to other people as an entrepreneur / business owner, and you are sending emails to someone, or let's just say text messages, because nowadays we have apps where people communicate frequently with business, with companies and business relationships. So if you're sending a text message saying, hey, what's up, dude? That might not look good for you. It may not look professional for you, especially depending on what that relationship looks like with the individual you're communicating with. So keep that in mind. You also create an image based on your grammar. Here's another thing. Your behavior is the mirror in which everyone shows their image. Behavior is the mirror in which everyone shows their image. Now, this is by Johann Wolfgang. I thought that this was really, really good because we do create an image in the public's eye when we do certain things, when we react certain ways. If let's just say that you are in a board meeting and it has something to do with your branding around your image, and you get up and you throw things across the table and you just get all upset and bent out of shape, well, now your behavior is showing exactly who you are. It's creating an image that maybe you don't want to be a perception of you, okay? So I want you to think about this. Has anyone tried to portray you because you've turned them down? So I ran across this interesting article around the Ford Motor Company. And what happened was they asked this particular singer to come in and do an ad for them, a commercial ad. The singer turned them down. So they was like, okay, cool. We don't need you anyway. What we're going to do is we're going to go and we're going to find somebody else who looks like you. Now, they didn't tell her this, but they said, we're going to find somebody else who looks like you, who can sing like you, and we're going to still get what we want without even having to have you, right? That's a violation. That's a violation of this person's intellectual property rights, which is their image. This company did everything that they could to mimic this individual, which can confuse folks because if other people definitely think that that is you when they do something out in the public's view, it could damage your reputation. And so your image matters, and you want to make sure that you are policing your image and making sure that other people do not have an unfettered right to do what they wish, to play around with your image. So here are some athletes who've had their image used by companies. So think about Saquon Barkley. He has a commercial for an energy drink. Serena Williams has all kinds of image deals. I mean, you turn on your TV, she's everywhere. But of course, she has shoe deals. She has tennis playing deals. Like, you see her in action as an athlete, as a tennis athlete. Derek Jeter, he had a deal with, I think it was Movado and Ford for cars, but he also got some other stuff. I think he also has like an energy drink as well and some other things. So we know that your image can be powerful. So you want to be careful in how you use it. You want to be careful in how you position it, because it could absolutely pay dividends for you later. So you need to protect your image, right? That's why they call me the protector of athletes, because I want to give you the tools that you can utilize to protect your image. And there are multiple ways that you can do this. But first, I want you to remember that your image is more than being an avenue to make some money, right? It's about how others really think about you, how they perceive you, and how they are perceiving you. Your image technically is a part of your brand. It is your brand. When people think of you, the athlete or the business owner, they may automatically create this visual idea around your image. So you want to think about what you say and how you say it in writing and orally. You want to think about the visual depictions that you put out there, the things that you post on social media, the things that you say about other people, the things that you may say or share that other people have shared on social media. You want to also think about how you show up. And I mean that in, what are you wearing? Are you showing up to a business meeting in a pair of jeans and a white t-shirt? Are you showing up looking like the businessman or woman that you are? All right. Now, here's another way to protect your image, and that's through ownership. You need to protect your image through federal registration. So if you've ever created a logo using your image, you should copyright it. If you have photographs that you've taken or created based on your own image, copyright it. Okay, copyright it. But here's something that you need to remember, coming back from what we were just discussing not too long ago. If someone else has taken a photograph of you, and now if you are absolutely a top performing athlete, I'm sure there are going to be all kinds of action photographs of you while you're in the game. You want to make sure that you buy the right to use those photographs before you go and pull them offline and start sharing them on your social media. Because as we have already discussed, it could create liability to you. And we already know that there are a lot of sharks out there in the sea, and they're seeing a lot of these student athletes get some really, really good NIL deals. And so you don't want to start having to pay paying costs on liability just because you didn't follow the steps necessary to make sure that you had the right to absolutely use an image, a photograph of you. Now, if your image will support an entirely new brand, like you're building a brand based on a particular image, then you may also want to trademark that. And so I think about Kawhi, the claw logo. We already know there was a whole bunch of stuff that happened with him. If you want to hear more details about that, definitely make sure you reach out to me so that you can get the first section of this NIL Q&A on name. But when you think about the claw and you see the claw, you see an image. That's an image of Kawhi. Okay, so you would definitely want to trademark that. And especially if your image is a part of your business, you need to protect it by trademarking it. So what you do and say impacts your image because it's your brand. So here are some examples. Now I want you to make sure that you go and get Athletes Making Moves, because I talk about this a lot in chapter 9 of the book. Determine and take control of your brand. So we know integrity, purpose, understanding what your brand is, being true to self, which is our authenticity, it creates a trusted brand identity. People like you. They love you, in fact. They can trust what you put out there. It makes brands. But here are some examples of what ruins brands: illegal drug use, committing domestic violence, and we've seen that play out over and over and over again, making stupid decisions, okay, like the athlete who shot himself in the leg, committing crimes. We know an athlete who went to prison for murder. Lack of understanding your brand can ruin your brand, like Mayweather, okay? Lack of authenticity, always trying to be everything to everybody, or trying to always help too many people than what you can sustain. These are examples that can ruin your brand, and it ruins your image. So what do you want people to think of first when they see your image? What do you want them to think of first? So when I think of LeBron James, the image that I see is not just this megastar, but I see legacy. That's the image that comes to mind for me when I see LeBron James. Serena Williams, when I think of her name, the image I see is a Black woman who has been beaten down so much, who has been ridiculed, but she still rises up. So I literally, like, the image that I mentally create is her being a flower growing from concrete. And she has, oh my gosh, this woman is just absolutely phenomenal. So you want to think about, what is the image that people think of when they see you, or even when they think about you? And what story does that image tell? What story does that image tell? Does it show people that you can be trusted? Does it? Because here's something that we need to keep in mind. Your words need to line up with the image that you're trying to put out into the world. And if it don't, people are going to be like, yeah, I can't deal with him. I can't deal with her. Because you're not real. You're not real. So you can't put one thing out there, but then you do something completely different. It's not authentic. And it's not true. And so how can people trust you? How can people trust the business that you're putting together? How can brands even trust who you are to want to give you an NIL deal if those things don't line up? So if I have any questions, make sure that you put them in the chat, and I will definitely answer your questions. But I hope that this has been helpful for you all, because we have a lot of folks out there talking about all of the financial benefits of NIL, but you can lose all of that if you're not careful with the legality around these issues. So as a reminder, I want you guys to go to athletesmakingmoves.com/shop. Make sure that you get a copy of this book. It is going to help you to break down name, image, and likeness like a boss, so that you can ensure that you're protecting your future. There are all types of content in the back of this book, resources to help you navigate this. Look, you don't want to sleep on it. You do not want to sleep on it. So make sure that you go ahead and get this book now. And then you also get free access to a backend portal where you can download these resources so that you can easily use them. All right. Don't forget, we'll be launching the Athletes Making Moves book club this spring. And I'm super excited about this because I know that it will benefit you guys to really hear and understand how the legal part of NIL comes into play, and how you need to utilize this information to set up your business the right way, so that people aren't taking advantage of you around NIL, but also so that you can put additional protections in place. Okay, our next Q&A is going to be November 9th at 12 p.m. If you want to join us, if you want to submit your questions ahead of time, make sure that you go to athletesmakingmoves.com. There is a tab right on the front of the website where you can click that button to go ahead and sign up for the Q&A so you get all of the notifications for that. Okay. All right, guys. So I hope that this was super helpful for you. Thank you for joining me today. If you want additional access to this recording and the recording from last month, make sure that you go to athletesmakingmoves.com right now. Click that button that we already talked about. Join the Q&A NIL series so that you can get access to this information. This is going to be a great resource for you to play back, to remind yourself of some of the legal issues around image. It's a pleasure to always talk to you, educate you, motivate you to your very next level. I am Sylvania DeBarros, Protector of Athletes. Until next time, I will see you guys later. Ciao.